The Spanish Empire is often called the first global empire. During the 15th and 16th centuries, Spain ruled over more land than any other nation in history. But how did this empire begin? And why did it eventually fall? In the 15th century, Spain was a relatively small kingdom located on the Iberian Peninsula. For much of its early history, Spain was occupied by various groups from North Africa. However, by the 1400s, the region had been Christianized, and the Spanish kingdoms of Castile and Aragon were ready to look beyond their borders. Both kingdoms had strong monarchs. Ferdinand and Isabella of Aragon, along with Queen Isabella of Castile, wanted to expand their territory and build large navies to rival those of the Ottoman Empire and the Republic of Venice. They also desired riches and were eager to find new sources of wealth. Above all, the Spanish monarchs wanted gold. In the early modern period, European states competed for gold because it was used to make coins and was considered the ultimate symbol of wealth and power. Gold would also be useful if another war with the Moors broke out. The Spanish rulers supported a small but growing number of explorers who claimed that there were vast quantities of gold in the lands to the west. These men dreamed of sailing around Africa or across the dangerous Atlantic Ocean to reach Asia and the precious metals of the East. The Spanish monarchs agreed to fund voyages to these distant lands in hopes of finding gold. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer who convinced the Spanish monarchs to finance his voyage across the Atlantic. After 4 weeks at sea, he and his crew landed in the Bahamas and claimed the islands for Spain. Although Columbus never found gold, he did discover vast quantities of another valuable resource, which was silver. Silver was actually more useful for building a strong economy than gold, because it could be used to make everyday objects as well as coins. There were also fewer large silver mines in Europe, so the metal was more expensive and more valuable. As it turned out, the Spanish had stumbled upon the richest source of silver in the world. The Spanish began to pour huge amounts of money into mining operations and built booming cities like in the mountains of Bolivia. While the Spanish were extracting incredible wealth from the Americas, they also had another goal in mind: converting the native peoples to Christianity. The Catholic Church played a huge role in the lives of the Spanish, and they wanted to share their religion with everyone. By the mid-1500s, missionaries were traveling throughout the Americas, building churches and attempting to convert the local populations. Oftentimes, these missions were built in remote areas where little or no farming could be done, so the Spanish crown granted missionaries large tracts of land. This, however, caused tension with the encomenderas, who were the people in charge of the mines and plantations. The encomenderas wanted the land for farming and ranching, and they often fought with the missionaries over territory. Eventually, Spanish crown stepped in and created a new legal system that divided the land into 3 categories: missionary, secular, and finally, the area directly controlled by the Spanish monarchy. Although the Spanish Empire was vast and wealthy, life for the average Spaniard was not easy. The empire was constantly at war with the Dutch, English, French, and Portuguese. There were also frequent revolts by the indigenous peoples. From the beginning, the Spanish had brutal treatment of the natives. They forced them to work long hours in the silver mines or on plantations for low wages. They also passed laws that made it illegal for Native Americans to leave their assigned lands. One of the most famous rebellions was led by a man named Tupac Amaru II. He was the son of an Inca king and spent much of his early life in a Spanish prison. After his release, Tupac Amaru led a massive rebellion against the Spanish in Peru, but was eventually captured and executed. Despite all the wealth that flowed into Spain, the empire was unable to escape the inflation that plagued many early modern states. There were simply too many people trying to acquire the limited amount of goods. By the end of the 1600s, Spain was just a shadow of its former self. Other European powers had taken much of its wealth and territory, and Spain would never again be a global empire. But before we go, let's take a minute to answer our big question. How did Spain become such a powerful empire? Simply put, Spain became such a powerful empire because it got rich from the riches of the Americas. They then used this wealth to build up their military and project power around the world.